What if Thanos didn't return to Earth to conquer it, but to expose a lie the universe has been protecting all along? Hey everyone, welcome back to Panelix. In Thanos 2023, Marvel brings the Mad Titan back, not as a warlord chasing infinity, but as something far more unsettling. Rejected by death herself and stripped of purpose, Thanos returns to Earth searching for meaning and uncovering secrets buried by those who claim to protect reality. As Thanos walks among humanity again, the real conflict isn't physical, it's existential. Because the Illuminati, Earth's self-appointed guardians, believe they understand the cost of survival. Thanos believes they're lying to themselves. And he's here to prove that their control, their morality, and their secrecy are no different from his own tyranny. Written by Christopher Cantwell, this series reframes Thanos not as a cosmic threat, but as a mirror, a reflection of heroes who make horrific choices in the name of balance, order, and necessity. Because this story isn't about Thanos becoming a god again, it's about exposing the uncomfortable truth that separates villains from heroes. Might be thinner than anyone wants to admit. So let's break it down. In Fresno, California, at Chez Shangri-El, a private residential complex, a woman dressed entirely in black appears to be getting ready to leave. She once saw a matchmaking show on TV where men would try to be chosen by the beautiful women there. A man named Brent was interested in a woman named Sabrina, and Sabrina's friend, Wendy, told Brent that according to Sabrina, he should show Sabrina who he was. All of this happened in Fiji, where Brent went on a date with Sabrina and told her about his grandfather. He explained that whenever people asked him about his childhood memories, he always said he remembered the movie Return of the Jedi. But what he actually remembered was his grandfather's death. Then the woman drove her car to a good medicine pharmacy. A worker at the counter named Demetrius greets the woman, whom he calls Roberta. Roberta inserts her time card and greets Debbie, who is standing next to her. At that moment, a man wearing a turban named Rick tells Roberta that the mouse trap next to the analgesics has caught a mouse. So Rick tells Roberta to take care of it and then mop the floor. Roberta agreed, found the dead mouse surrounded by flies, removed it from the trap, and put it in a bag. She then mopped the area. When it was time to go home, she swiped her attendance card again and saw Debbie still beside the attendance machine, still asleep, as she had been that morning. A few moments later, Roberta was driving in her car. She stopped at a house, rolled down the window while wearing a mask, and saw a woman inside. As the woman was about to look out, Roberta drove away. After that, Roberta drove to Mountain View Cemetery, stopped in front of Marie Collins's grave, and stood there in silence. Roberta continued the story about Brent. When he was 3 years old, his mother took him to the hospital, and he had to kiss his grandfather's body to say goodbye. Brent continued that he wouldn't just be there for her when she was beautiful and everything was good, but he would be there until one of them had to kiss their own body to say goodbye. During the date, Sabrina said that Brent's story about his grandfather scared her, but she believed there was someone else out there meant for Brent. Roberta, who was watching TV, shifted her attention to the dead mouse she had put in her pocket, then fell asleep while the TV was still on. In her sleep, Roberta seemed to see a black hole sucking everything around it. Then an open mouth appeared and screamed, and that's when Roberta woke up, realizing it was just a dream. The next day, Roberta leaned against the counter while waiting, with two friends chatting behind her. A woman with two buns in her hair mentioned that she wanted the man she was dating to be patient, while her friend in the green hat nodded in agreement. The woman with the buns continued, saying that the tree roots had started to cross the property line. Meanwhile, in outer space, a spaceship was seen moving toward Earth. At the pharmacy, Roberta was scanning a customer's purchases. She asked if the customer's phone number was registered here, but the customer said it wasn't necessary. Roberta still offered to register them, then lifted her head, and when the customer saw Roberta, she recognized her as Marie. The woman turns out to be the elderly woman whose house Roberta visited yesterday, but now Roberta says the woman must have mistaken her for someone else because her name is Roberta Marshall. But the woman asked what she was that brought her back to life. Who is she that this mother is referring to? We will find out later. At the same time, The spaceship was already above Fresno, and from a distance, it was cutting off part of Fresno from Earth using a laser beam. Meanwhile, at the pharmacy where Roberta worked, the roof of the store was cracking and about to collapse. Seeing this, Roberta urged the old woman to leave immediately, but the woman still looked confused. Roberta quickly pushed her away and took her with her. Upon reaching the pharmacy, Roberta and the old woman saw the spaceship still using its laser to cut off part of Fresno, while 2 fighter jets appeared ready to attack it. However, the spaceship quickly disabled both fighter jets with laser fire. Roberta escorted the old woman to her car and told her to leave, but the woman refused to leave her again. However, Roberta insisted. She asked her name and the woman promised to find Christine again, but now she had to survive first. Finally, the woman agreed and left in her car. Suddenly, a man's voice was heard calling for help from inside the pharmacy, and hearing this, Roberta rushed back inside to save him. Meanwhile, Christine, who was in her car, was still wondering how Marie could have come back to life. At the pharmacy, a male employee was seen asking for help because his leg was trapped under a fallen cabinet. Roberta helped move the cabinet, but when she was still exhausted from moving it, the man ran away from the pharmacy, leaving Roberta behind. Unfortunately, at that moment, the ceiling of the pharmacy collapsed onto Roberta. Shortly after, the front glass of the pharmacy cracked and flew into the pharmacy, and Roberta covered her face with her hands. She appeared weak from the previous incident. Meanwhile, Christine was still stuck in traffic on the bridge. She cried inside the car, hoping the car in front of her would move, but the bridge had collapsed. Christine kept pressing the gas pedal to try to escape, but her car also fell under the bridge along with the others. At that moment, Fresno had already been separated from Earth and lifted toward the space. A communication signal from the ISS contacted Houston, reporting that an unknown spacecraft was seen lifting something from orbit, and they recognized it as Fresno. The city of Fresno was also taken into the spaceship, while Roberta, still unconscious inside the pharmacy, lay on the ground. She felt that no one would smell her body or say goodbye like grandfather's Brent had, because she had no one. Meanwhile, from inside the spaceship, a flying throne emerged, carrying someone on top of it. The throne hovered above Fresno, and the person on it was none other than Thanos. He said there was someone he was looking for in Fresno, and before finding them, he would destroy the city. On the other side, Roberta was still lying unconscious in the pharmacy. Suddenly, a voice came over the pharmacy's loudspeaker, calling for Roberta Marshall. The voice said they had no ill intentions. Finally, Roberta wakes up and slowly walks out of the pharmacy. Upon exiting, she finds Iron Man, Emma Frost, Reed Richards, Blue Marvel, and Doctor Strange. Iron Man attempts to introduce himself, but Roberta claims she already knows who he is. She refers to Reed as Mr. Great, to which Reed responds by introducing himself as Fantastic or Reed. Then Roberta pointed at Blue Marvel, and Blue Marvel admitted that not many people knew him. However, Roberta knew who he was, even knowing his name was Adam Brassier, and she really liked his science podcast, where he was kind to everyone. Even when Doctor Strange was about to say his name, Roberta already knew he was Doctor Strange. She also knew Emma Frost's name, and she was confused about how she knew it. Emma explained that it was a long story. Emma told Iron Man that the psychic bonds might still be there, and Iron Man thought that was good. At that moment, Blue Marvel added that he was also a living antimatter reactor. They walked out of the pharmacy together, while Roberta asked why they were all there. Iron Man explained that there was a villain interested in Roberta. Roberta asked why, and Reed replied that it was complicated. Roberta responded that even the Avengers were here now, but according to Doctor Strange, they weren't the Avengers. They were unknown and operating in secret. Even Blue Marvel asked Roberta never to tell anyone about today's events. However, Roberta looked up at the sky and asked if it was nighttime, only to suddenly realize they were in outer space. At that moment, an explosion occurs right in front of them. Reed sticks his head out and asks what they should do next, and Iron Man answers that when facing Thanos, the next step they can take is to survive. It is seen that Thanos is firing from a distance with his fist repeatedly toward them. Currently in Fresno, which is also in outer space, Thanos is seen continuing to shoot around Fresno and shouting, looking for the goddess of death. He tells her not to hide among the ruins of Fresno. Meanwhile, Adam asks Reed if Thanos ever pulled the city out of the ground, and Reed replies that he's not sure, but once Fresno entered orbit, something protected its atmosphere. Emma Frost asks if the earpiece in her ear is really necessary because it would be better if she connected them with her telepathy, and Iron Man argues that it's better this way than having Emma busy switching their communication channels via telepathy. At this point, Roberta began to ask why they were helping her among all the city's residents, and Emma Frost replied that it was because she had asked for their help. But Iron Man cut her off. He continued Emma's statement saying that Roberta was a priority. Iron Man then asked if Emma wanted to go into hiding because of something involving her, and Emma replied that she wasn't worried as long as the Illuminati could resolve this quickly. And besides, Iron Man needed her. Iron Man says he just wants to check. Reed reminds them that time is running out and wants Blue Marvel to disable the weapons system on Thanos' ship so they can return Fresno to Earth. Blue Marvel agreed to the task and flew off. Emma wanted Thanos to get out of his throne because he could be anywhere and anytime while sitting on it. She asked if Tony and Strange could do it. Strange agreed to destroy the mystical power of the throne, but Tony felt they needed to contact someone. Reed said they were trying to save this place, not destroy it, but Emma told Reed to consider it because she thought it was a good idea. At that moment, Iron Man urged them to call him. Roberta finally asked who they were going to call, and Emma replied that it was the Big Stick. Reed explained that he didn't mind calling him, but after that, they would have a hard time stopping him. Iron Man said that even if they knocked Thanos off his throne, he would still be Thanos, and that only that man could distract the Mad Titan, and Doctor Strange confidently told them to call him. But Iron Man refused to contact him himself, even though Reed argued that he had the best relationship with him. Iron Man disagreed and said that he thought the opposite was true. Reed replied that the man wouldn't come if Reed contacted him, while Doctor Strange hesitantly asked if they really wanted him to come. Iron Man agreed because Thanos was their enemy, and Reed suggested that Stephen, aka Doctor Strange, contact him telepathically so there would be no misunderstanding when talking to him. Iron Man confirmed that that was the problem, and Stephen agreed. Stephen asked if there was a backup plan, but Iron Man felt they didn't have time, and neither did Reed. Finally, Stephen flew away, adding that he would try to block Thanos' power in Fresno for now. Iron Man, who flew with him, praised the plan so that the Big Stick could hurt him more later, while Reed asked Emma to protect Roberta's mind, and then pointed to an antenna that could get the people of Fresno out of there. Reed moved forward toward the antenna, asking Emma to wait under the building and push Thanos up as much as possible when he approached. Emma followed him with Roberta, responding that Thanos had an insect brain that she could easily crush. Meanwhile, Adam was near Thanos' ship, intercepting a starburster cannon blast and reporting that it had been absorbed into his power. Tony asked if Adam could redirect the energy elsewhere, and Adam replied that he would try. In Colorado, Hulk's feet thud as he steps down. Back with Adam, he finally manages to direct the energy from the starburster cannon to shoot the weapon system on Thanos' ship. He confirms this to Iron Man, but the beam holding Fresno in place is still working. Adam entered the ship to see if he could return Fresno to Earth, and eventually found the tractor beam control room. At that moment, Reed warned him to be careful because Adam couldn't just shut off the machine and needed to know how to control it. Adam asked if Reed was afraid he would drop Fresno into Las Vegas. At that moment, Thanos' men realized that Adam had infiltrated the plane, and one of them said that the Heralded would be pleased with Adam's death. Adam attacked them with a beam from his hands, saying that Fresno must return home. And finally, Fresno returned to Earth and was about to land. Meanwhile, Iron Man and Doctor Strange appear to be approaching Thanos' location. Iron Man asks Stephen if he has contacted the man, and Stephen says yes, but the man seems unhappy and tells them to deal with this themselves. Finally, Stephen reminds them that the mystical component in Thanos' seat is very difficult to deal with, and that he has never seen it up close. Iron Man replies that he will find out if he can give Stephen a chance to see it. On the other side in Utah, Hulk's feet are seen returning to the ground, causing a loud rumbling sound. Meanwhile, Thanos realizes that Iron Man and Doctor Strange are nearby. He cannot believe that Iron Man and the Sorcerer Supreme could threaten his embodiment of love, because he even escaped the event horizon to find her. Iron Man attacks Thanos with a blast from his hands, causing Thanos to fall from his throne. He says that Fresno won't be the prettiest city in America, but that doesn't mean Thanos can destroy it. The throne falls onto an old car, while Thanos floats away. Steven explains that the magic on the throne is so ancient that he's having trouble finding a spell to affect it. Tony asks Strange to try anyway, while Thanos prepares an attack with his hands, saying they're a poor distraction. At that moment, Reed warned that Fresno would land on Earth and there would be a slight tremor. Sure enough, Fresno landed with a loud crash. Adam apologized, saying he should have made it smoother. Meanwhile, Thanos approached and prepared to attack, while Strange, who was nearby, continued trying to break the spell on Thanos' throne. Iron Man, who was already prepared across from Thanos, told Strange that the throne was no longer the main issue. Suddenly, a man said that it was his classic car and asked who had placed the magical throne on it. Thanos told Iron Man that if he interfered with Thanos, he and his friends would suffer at his hands, while Iron Man simply replied that it was an old song. Strange finally stops his spell, smiles, and tells Tony that the throne won't go anywhere for a while. At that moment, Thanos attacks Iron Man with a shot from his hand, sending him flying far away, while the car owner asks if that was Iron Man, and Strange confirms it. At the same time, the sound of Hulk's footsteps falls back onto the ground in Nevada, back to Thanos. Strange prepares with power in both hands, warning Thanos to leave Fresno. Seeing this, the car owner runs away in fear, while Thanos replies that he hasn't finished his noble task. Finally, Strange summons his power, crimson bands of... But Thanos' quick movement catches Strange's suit and slams him to the ground, telling him to shut up. At that moment, a voice says that Thanos can defeat Iron Man and Strange, but can he stop Hulk? It turns out to be Hulk, who lands with a loud thud in front of Thanos. Thanos immediately attacks Hulk with a blast from his hands, saying he has no time for Banner. Hulk blocks the attack with his palm, saying that Banner isn't here, only Hulk, and he will defeat Thanos. Hulk runs toward Thanos and punches him. Then Hulk jumps toward where Thanos is, and at the same time, Strange is casting a spell. "Oh, Vishanti, take this Titan's energized strength and banish it from Fresno. Let him draw not on the power he manifests. Hide his access to this energy as far as Bakersfield, perhaps even Santa Cruz." Thanos lands in Crazy Joe Davola's used car garage, gets up, and lifts the house, crushing him while telling Strange that his patience is running out. He grabs Strange and ties his neck with his cloak, saying that Strange won't be able to cast a spell if he can't breathe. But Hulk arrives and tells Thanos to let him go. Thanos was certain the woman was here because Stark, Strange, and Hulk, members of the Illuminati, were present. He asked where she was. Meanwhile, Reed was already at the antenna to change the transmission signal. He asked Brassier if the plane had a good teleportation system, and Brassier confirmed it, even saying he was already at the teleportation control center. Reed explained that he wanted Brassier to program safe teleportation coordinates. Then they could reflect the array on this tower, so people could get away from Thanos. Meanwhile, Roberta, who is below the antenna tower with Emma, asks what Reed is doing, and Emma replies that they don't need to worry about him. Roberta continues, saying that there are monsters here, there's a spaceship above, and Mr. Fantastic is doing something crazy to the antenna. Emma explains that Mr. Fantastic is coordinating with Blue Marvel to direct the ship's teleportation abilities to the surface so that innocent people can be transported away from the conflict zone using beams. It's just a combination of transmutational physics and quantum energy transfer. Roberta asks in amazement if that's possible, and Emma replies that with these people, anything is possible. On the other side, Strange managed to break free from Thanos' grasp and used his cloak to cover Thanos' eyes. Thanos shouted that he was just a master of deception. At that moment, Hulk, who was behind Thanos, moved forward and punched Thanos, sending him flying. Strange was glad Hulk had arrived, but Hulk replied that he didn't care about Strange or Fresno, but he hated the Titans. Strange responds that that's good enough for him. Next, Reed tells Brassier to turn it on now. Brassier locks the signal and raises the lever, and the antenna tower begins firing beams targeting organic beings, namely humans, and eventually, cats will be able to teleport. Seeing people getting hit by the beams and disappearing, Roberta asks if they're vaporizing humans, but Emma tells her to calm down because they're just moving the people. Emma asks where Reed is sending them, and Reed replies that they're being sent to Sacramento, only 150 miles away, so they can return easily. Emma says she understands and thanks him. Meanwhile, Thanos dodged Hulk's punch and said that Hulk couldn't take the woman away from him, but Hulk replied that he didn't care what Thanos was looking for and would only kill Thanos. Iron Man was seen flying closer and shooting Thanos, reminding his friends on the communication device that the problem with Thanos was still there. Thanos, seeing the transporter beam, realized they wanted to move the woman away from him. Finally, Thanos struck Hulk far away, then lifted Iron Man and threw him away. Since Strange's spell prevented him from using his powers on his throne, Thanos looked at a car, opened the roof, started the engine using his fingers, and drove off. Meanwhile, Christine is still searching for Marie in her car, avoiding the transporter beams. She even takes a reflective sheet to cover her head and exits the car to search for Marie. A transporter beam reflects off the sheet above Christine's head. Roberta, who was told by Emma to stay put, hears Christine's voice and tries to tell her to leave. Seeing Roberta, Christine is relieved that Marie is safe, but Roberta insists that that's not her name. At that moment, the car driven by Thanos begins to appear to Emma, who tells Roberta to run, while Thanos realizes that Roberta is the woman he's been searching for. Emma turned into a diamond and blocked Thanos' car, causing it to stop. She reported to her friends that Thanos was there. Steven told Emma to keep Thanos away from Roberta, but Thanos had already told Roberta that he had come back for her. However, Roberta replied that she didn't need him. Emma uses her powers to control Thanos' mind, telling Steven that Thanos is under her control. Steven tells Emma to weaken him, but Emma says she'd rather kill him, even though Steven forbids it because Thanos could overpower her. Sure enough, Thanos, who is in pain, easily pushes Emma down and tells her to get out of his mind. Thanos finally grabbed Roberta, who asked what he intended to do to her. At that moment, Christine attacked Thanos from behind and ordered him to release Roberta, but Thanos easily threw Christine aside and told Roberta to get into the car immediately. Roberta got into the car, followed by Thanos. Roberta thought Thanos was going to kill her, but Thanos replied that she just needed to remember everything. At that moment, Thanos' car drove off with Christine trying to chase after it in another car. Meanwhile, Steven asked if Emma was still controlling Thanos and if Roberta was still with her, but Emma answered no to both questions. Roberta appeared to be crying and said her name was Roberta Marshall, but Thanos explained that she was his love, the mistress of death. As soon as Thanos took Roberta away, Iron Man appeared to be flying while reporting that he was tracking the location of the truck Thanos had stolen by tracking the distinctive smoke from the pre-catalytic converter exhaust on the car, and he was now chasing it. Blue Marvel replied that he should have just said he was in pursuit. At that moment, Blue Marvel also appeared to be flying, and Iron Man could be heard asking him over the communication device if he wanted to come along. Blue Marvel replied that he would go ahead. On Reed's side, he reported that most of the residents of Fresno had been teleported, and that he and the Hulk would follow. Reed is seen leaving the antenna transmitter with Hulk behind him. Iron Man tells him to keep Hulk angry at Thanos and not at them, and Reed agrees. Meanwhile, Emma is also chasing Thanos on a motorcycle. She says she managed to weaken Thanos during their mind power duel earlier, while Strange replies that Thanos also managed to injure Emma. He says there's no need to fight Thanos one-on-one, and Emma tells Strange to just go away. Strange adds that the Illuminati are so powerful when they're together that they have to hide their existence. So he wants Emma to work as a team, but Emma replies that the Illuminati is a court and Emma is the queen. Meanwhile, Roberta was at a Mexican restaurant with Thanos. Thanos wanted to explain who Roberta really was, that she was the cosmic manifestation of death itself. At that moment, Osvaldo's waiter came out to offer chips and salsa, and Roberta asked for a bottle of tequila, which the waiter hesitantly refused. But hearing Thanos' shout to bring Roberta what she wanted, the waiter ran inside. Thanos explains that he is trapped in eternal darkness and feels pain, to the point where he wants to die. Though he sees that as a weakness, he realizes that what he truly desires is not death but the goddess of death, so he can gather the strength to free himself from that hell. Roberta is seen shedding tears, repeating Thanos' words that all of this is for her. Thanos continued that he felt lost and hopeless, just like Roberta in her current human form. Roberta asked him to stop calling her that. Then Thanos grabbed Roberta's hand and said that his goal was clear again, which was for the two of them to rule the world just like before. Although Thanos had been separated from death, he was now back. The waiter arrived with their order, but Roberta, unable to bear Thanos' words, screamed loudly in refusal, causing the place to shake and Thanos and the waiter to fall. Realizing what had happened, Roberta was confused, while the waiter asked if they wanted to order again. Finally, Roberta ran away, while Thanos continued to call her mistress. Roberta then got into Thanos' car and left, leaving Thanos behind, who was shot by Christine, who had just caught up. Christine told Thanos to leave Roberta alone. She kept shooting at him, who, asking what her connection to death was. Christine replied that Roberta wasn't him, but Thanos immediately choked her and lifted her up, asking why death was now hidden in blood and bones. Meanwhile, Roberta still looked scared and drove in confusion. Moments later, Iron Man suddenly flew beside her and told her to stop the car. Emma also appeared at the other window and ordered her to stop immediately. A loud noise came from the engine, while Iron Man reminded Roberta that the engine had just been damaged, so she needed to brake. On the other side, Emma continues to tell her to stop, and Blue Marvel, who has just arrived and sees Roberta's car swaying, also warns her to slow down. Hulk has also just landed and tells Roberta to stop the car, but Roberta tells him to get out of the way. At that moment, Thanos appears in front of the car, saying that Thanos belongs to Death, and Death belongs to Thanos. Finally, the car crashes into Thanos and catches fire, while Iron Man, seeing this, shouts, "No!" Roberta appears unconscious, and Thanos leaves the front of the car while Reed asks Tony to get Roberta out of the car. Tony pulled open the car door and pulled Roberta out, checking her vital organs, while Emma said she couldn't hear Roberta's voice in her mind. Blue Marvel was imprisoning Thanos in an energy bubble. Blue Marvel ordered Thanos to back off, but Thanos wanted Roberta dead so his lover could free herself from the bonds of the human body. Roberta is seen screaming silently, and Emma cries while trying to help her, while Tony explains that Roberta has suffered an aortic laceration. Tony takes off his helmet to tell Emma that this is fatal, and Tony is seen shedding tears. The Illuminati members gather around Roberta in sadness, while Blue Marvel continues to face Thanos. Roberta takes her last breath. Suddenly, a rumbling sound is heard as Death emerges from Roberta's body, saying that they have all ruined Death. Reed responds that this was an experiment that challenged his mind, while Strange quotes a poem, "Because I could not stop for death," while Tony recognized the poem by Emily Dickinson. On the other side, Thanos looked happy because his mistress had returned. Strange explained that they had given Death what it wanted, human life and death, but Thanos accused the Illuminati of weakening Death and making it live like a maggot. However, Death said that was its own choice. Thanos replied that he already knew, saying that the Illuminati were only tools and that the guilty ones were here. Thanos then created a teleportation door and pulled Christine Collins out of it, saying that she was the one who made Death feel sympathy. At that moment, Christine looked for her and challenged her, but before that, Death had already questioned everything. The memory returned to a moment earlier in the world of Death. At that time in her kingdom, Death asked the Well of Eternity why she had to be immortal and live forever. But the well did not answer, even though it knew the answer. At that moment, two of Death's palace guards brought in Christine, who said she wanted to meet Death. One of them offered to kill Christine, but Death was curious how she had gotten there. Christine replied that she had seen Death when Marie died, so she had come looking for her. Death asked why Christine was searching for her, and Christine answered that she had taken Marie too soon. Death remained silent, then moved his hand, which the guards interpreted as a signal to release their grip on Christine. At that moment, a photo fell, and Death picked it up, revealing a picture of Marie. Christine explained that she had searched for Death until people thought she was crazy, asking madmen and liars about her, until she met Marlowe, who told her how to get here. Death walked to her throne, discarding the photo, and said she wouldn't bring her child back because she wasn't important enough to disrupt the balance of everything. However, Christine insisted that it wasn't Marie's time to die, but Death insisted that it was her time. Death admitted that she gained nothing from Marie's death and was only watching. Christine felt that Death was a coward because she didn't know the pain of losing an irreplaceable life. To her, life was as important as the universe. Death remained silent while Christine, who was being held by the guards, said that she had wanted to beg Death for Marie. But now she felt sorry for her instead. Death waves her hand and Christine disappears like dust from her palace, while Death picks up Marie's photo, which is still lying on the ground. Next, Death meets the Illuminati in the necropolis in Wakanda. She wants human life and human death. Reed replied that with Death's abilities, she could obtain this on her own, but Death did not want to cause imbalance and suspicion among her siblings. Strange felt that Death's request could be achieved through mystical means, while Iron Man asked what they would gain by helping her, and Emma agreed with Tony. Blue Marvel added that if Death had nothing better to offer, she should just go to therapy. Death offers the secret to the end of their world, which will occur in their current lives. She knows who and what caused this destruction, so this secret will belong to them if they help Death and keep her request a secret. Tony wanted clarity on the information Death was offering, and Death wanted life and protection from them. Then the Well of Eternity would summon them and tell them what they wanted. Death then handed over a photo of Marie and wanted them to make her look like her. Strange asked who this was, and Death told him that she was one of the people who had died. Death added that she wanted to be sent to Fresno, back to the present. According to Thanos, Roberta's life was meaningless and filled with confusion, but Iron Man believed they had already given Death the life and death it desired, so now it was time to reveal the final secret of the world. At that moment, Thanos used Iron Man's words to show how Iron Man had belittled Death, and he also pointed to Christine, whom he believed had also belittled Death. Thanos then grabs Death by the shoulders and tells her that he loves Death for who she is, not because of who she is, and whispers for her to come back to her senses. But Death rejects Thanos' hand, saying that she will never be his mistress, that Thanos has destroyed everything she wanted to learn, and that she will never forgive him. Thanos finally sighs and declares that he is disappointed. Since Thanos only wanted to help awaken Death, he uses a beam of energy from his hands toward Christine, causing her body to burn. Death becomes enraged, using her power to push Thanos away. With the strength of her hands, she strikes Thanos again and declares that he will die by her hands today. Meanwhile, the Illuminati watched everything unfold. Iron Man began reciting a poem by Dickinson starting with, "Because I could not stop for Death, Death kindly stopped for me." Stephen continued, "The carriage held but just ourselves," while Reed added, "but immortality." And Hulk declared that he hated poetry. Previously. At that time, Death was still Roberta. She was at home, sitting in the TV room, writing something. In her heart, she said that she did not know how the end of the world would happen. Then she saw Christine, the person she always thought about. At that time, Christine was shoveling snow in the middle of a snowstorm. According to Roberta, Christine also did not know how the world would end. Then the moment Roberta died was shown, along with her pain. At that time, people said it was arrogant to think that the world would end in their lifetime, but clearly, whenever the world ended, the only thing that mattered was when their own little lives ended, because whatever happened, it wouldn't make a difference. Now. At this moment, Death had returned to its true form. She told Thanos that if he truly loved Death, then he should just die. Death attacks Thanos with black power from her hands, turning Thanos' purple body black and weakening him. Thanos says that Death is still blind even though Thanos worships her. Thanos feels he has dedicated his time to Death, but Death remains aimless. Finally, Thanos broke free from Death's influence and rose up. Despite being bombarded by Death's attacks, Thanos remained standing. He believed that Death was no longer worthy of being itself and had abandoned its essence. Therefore, for Thanos, Death must be destroyed. Thanos gathered his strength in his hands and fired a yellow beam at Death. Thus, the two of them clashed, while the Illuminati and Hulk watched the battle in awe. At that moment, Death thought that she also wanted to know the end of the world, but not to stop it, but because her waiting would finally come to an end. Watching the battle between Thanos and Death, Reed commented that he had never imagined Armageddon happening like this, while Blue Marvel argued that they couldn't let Thanos kill Death, but Reed wasn't even sure it was possible. At that moment, Thanos was seen shooting Death, but Death was able to dodge Thanos' attack. Iron Man said that Death might not die now, but Fresno would soon be destroyed if this continued, while Hulk commented that it was sad because it was the world's salad. Iron Man responds that it should be in Salinas Valley, whereas they are in San Joaquin Valley, but Hulk angrily replies that the salad is where he said it was. Emma agrees that with Thanos' death at the hands of Death, they will benefit, because Thanos cannot win, but he can die. But according to Strange, that's the worst thing that could happen, because the last time Thanos died, his energy was absorbed by Death and created something terrible, something almost unstoppable. Iron Man, who didn't hear Strange's words, asks what he said, and Emma replies that according to Strange, they have to protect Thanos. And for Emma, that's annoying. Strange explains that this is the only way if they don't want to create a void entity that could engulf everything and destroy everything in the world. Hearing this, Reed thanks Steven for his enlightening explanation, and Strange agrees. Behind them, Thanos once again attacks Death with the power of his hands, which Death easily deflects with a black smoke shield. Finally, Blue Marvel decides that the best solution is for him to intervene. Blue Marvel gathers power in his hands and tells Death that he understands that Death wants Thanos dead, but Blue Marvel cannot allow that to happen. Blue Marvel released his power between Thanos and Death, but Death swiftly attacked Blue Marvel with her black power, saying that Blue Marvel couldn't command her. Emma quickly approached Blue Marvel, who seemed to be shivering from the cold. She used her telepathy to check on Blue Marvel and explained that his mind was shrouded in darkness, and she couldn't find him. There is a skull symbol in Blue Marvel's eyeballs. Strange also tries to open the teleportation door because he thinks they should be separated in two places, but Reed forbids him because they can both move through space and time as if they were in their own home. So they would end up fighting throughout the entire universe, and they wouldn't know who would be affected. At this moment, Death extends her claws to attack Thanos, who still has a yellow beam in his hand that he will use to attack. On the other side, Strange asks Reed again what they can do, but this time Reed replies that he doesn't know. Finally, Strange suggests that they ask for help, but Reed questions who can arrive in time, considering that they, as the Illuminati, are already the fastest. At this moment, Death grabs Thanos by the collar, but suddenly, Strange flies towards them and asks them to stop. However, Death forbids Stephen Strange from interfering, or else his soul will be taken and stored by Death. As a result of Death's attack, in Strange's mind, he saw himself as he was at birth, then when he was wearing his surgical gown. Additionally, there was a moment when he was driving a car and crashed into a guardrail, and also when Strange's chest was pierced by a sword. In reality, Strange was lying on the ground, his body shrouded in a black aura. Death immediately attacked Thanos, who was unprepared, but Reed pushed Thanos down to prevent him from being hit by Death's attack. However, Thanos felt humiliated by Reed's help and struck Reed instead. Seeing this, Death said that Thanos always felt victorious and considered himself a god, and Death hated him deeply. Death then uses her black power to attack Thanos, but Hulk hits Death from behind because he doesn't want Death to kill the Purple Man. But Death's attention is diverted to Hulk, who she believes is an immortal human who can always escape Death's grasp, but she understands that Hulk considers Death to be something he will never have. When Death looked at him, Hulk became gloomy and helpless, while Iron Man commented that Death had destroyed Hulk. Emma said that now only Emma and Iron Man were left, and Iron Man hesitantly felt that they would not be able to survive this one. Finally, Emma admitted that she had enjoyed their cooperation all this time. Iron Man took off his helmet and replied that he felt the same way. They then hold each other's hands, and Iron Man steps forward alone in front of Death and Thanos, who are still clashing. He raises both hands and says they can talk this out, but Death immediately attacks Iron Man, sending him flying. Next, it was Emma's turn to enter Death's mind to understand the cause of all her pain, but Death easily turned the tables and began influencing Emma instead. Inside Emma's mind, a demon held her and pulled her into the darkness. While Death is still dealing with Emma, Thanos, who has been defeated by Death, tries to get up. He feels he must summon the empty space in outer space that once imprisoned her. However, Thanos falls and blood pours from his nose, but he continues to try to summon the empty space that can dampen all powers, including Death's, turning them into something meaningless, like small pebbles. At that moment, Death realizes that something is approaching her, something like smoke surrounding her. Death tried to resist the influence of this power, but she couldn't. And eventually, Death's memories returned when Marie was in the hospital. She saw Marie calling out to her mother, Christine, and Christine answered Marie's call. However, when Christine held Marie's hand, it was Death lying in Marie's bed. Death was confused. How could Christine be her mother? But then she found herself in a very dark place, wondering where she was. She heard Thanos' voice saying that they could have everything, and that he had hoped Death would choose him over the worms, that is, humans. But Death had disappointed him. Thanos then recounted his prison in outer space, which he claimed was not an ordinary place. It was the source of nothingness. That chamber allowed him to create this place, which now serves as Death's prison. Death refused to accept this, arguing that it violated the cosmic rules and Thanos would be punished for it. However, Thanos claimed that Death had already broken the rules of her job, and this was her punishment. Thanos says he is certain he will obtain Death after her punishment is complete, either by Death extending her hand or by him holding Death in his grasp. Thanos grips Death's chin, and Death transforms into a stone, with her struggling to escape by pounding on the stone's surface. Thanos says goodbye to his mistress and tells her he will mourn for her. At that moment, Iron Man arrives carrying Emma, while Emma cannot believe that Thanos has imprisoned Death. However, according to Thanos, souls will still die even if Death is here. Strange asks what Thanos' plan is for the stone, and Thanos replies that Death has been captivated by human cries and that it is now his responsibility to keep it in this place of purification. Reed asks how Thanos was able to create the stone, but Thanos admits that he is not the one in control. Hulk added that Thanos must hand over the stone to them, but he refused, saying it would be better to destroy the stone so that Death could be freed from the weakness that had infected it. Thanos turned to leave, adding that there was another possibility. Reed asked what that possibility was, but Thanos just smiled without revealing anything. Thanos left through the teleportation portal, saying goodbye to the worms. At that moment, Blue Marvel was behind him to stop Thanos, but he had already left. Iron Man asked what they should do now, and Blue Marvel could only stare blankly at Thanos' departure, while Strange felt uncertain about it, and Reed could only feel ironic. Reed's thoughts turned to the secret of the end of their world, which Death had promised when they gave her life. Death said it would happen in their time, and with Thanos' return, Reed began to wonder if he had anything to do with the destruction of Earth. Meanwhile, Thanos appears in outer space, surrounded by stars and holding the Death Stone in his hand, while Death's voice echoes again, stating that no one knows how the world will end, but one thing is certain: that day will come. And that's the story of Thanos, 2023. Not a return built on conquest, but on rejection. A mad titan who comes back to Earth not to rule, but to be proven wrong by a universe that no longer needs him. At its core, this story isn't about power or destruction, it's about obsession, about a being who devoted his existence to death, only to learn that she never asked for any of it. In the larger Marvel cosmos, this reframes Thanos completely. He's no longer the ultimate force of inevitability, he's a warning. A reminder that even the greatest monsters can be driven by emptiness rather than purpose. Because when even death turns away, the most terrifying fate isn't destruction, it's irrelevance.